What's up, Gator fans? It's the Black Andy Cat. We're back. Another episode of These Three Things. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Ding, like the video, and please jump in the comments. Love the discussion, the back and forth with college football fans, and listening to what you think about the Gator football program moving forward is very interesting. So a lot been going on with the Gators. We're talking about the offense, right? Let's take a step back, right? All the fast pace that's been going on with player signings, we haven't had a chance to really talk about what's going on with the coaching staff and Buster Faulkner, right? That this is a big deal. It was considered a great hire. I thought it was a great hire. Uh, you know, Gators offense has been beleaguered, to say the least, over the past few years. Since Mullen left, right? We haven't really seen much out of the offense. So that's something that was very important to Gator fans. It was on the top of John Summerall's mind. He talked about it in his press conference. And so he went out and got Buster Faulkner. Was this the right guy? I mean, is that going to address the issues? In a short word, yes. If he can get this offense, if the players can execute it the right way, you should see a much better offense than you've seen in the past. Doesn't necessarily mean they're going to score 50 points every game, right? But offense is a big key to keeping Gator fans happy. That was a lot of the fanfare. That's why a lot of people wanted Kiffin, because he was a guy who was known as an offensive mind, and so people wanted that. But got a very good substitute. Replacement just as good potentially as what you would have had in Kiffin. So what should we be expecting out of the Buster Faulkner offense? Well, understand some of the basics about it. His offensive scheme is an evolution, kind of something he's kind of developed over time. It's an evolution of the air raid offense and the spread that we saw from Gus Malzahn. Kind of think of it as a combo of that wrapped with pro style concepts. Okay, so you've got the air raid where you're slinging the ball up and down the field, and you've got some power run that's in there as well, but then it's all kind of tied together with these pro style concepts. It's going to require a lot of decision making by the quarterbacks. Okay, the playbook doesn't have thousands of plays in it. It's got some core plays that they practice over and over and over, and they execute to a T. Okay. Now, unlike the air raid, and this is where I'm saying it's a combo of kind of the Gus Malzahn power run or power spread. The run is a big factor in this offense. So it's not all 70-80% passing. You might see a 50-50, 60-40 run sometimes, depending on who's standing across from this offense week to week. So it isn't necessarily all about slinging the rock. It's about scoring points. It's about winning games. And we've seen that being able to control the football in certain situations is important, right? Again, just check out the college football playoffs. Run game has been critical for a lot of teams, particularly Miami, right? Indiana uses the run to keep other teams off the field, control the game, and they punch it in the end zone. Makes it tough for people. So a lot going on with the Buster Faulkner offense. A lot of people are looking back at his time at Georgia Tech. I would say don't necessarily, and that's how they're making their judgment on what to expect from Buster Faulkner, and don't necessarily do that. People forget, or maybe people don't know, that he was also the QB's coach at Georgia when they won national titles. Okay, so look at that time. I think that time might be more indicative of what we will see potentially in the upcoming season coming out of the Buster Faulkner offense. You've all probably seen that video with the commentator talking about how Buster Faulkner's offense is a nightmare because you never know what you're getting, and that's the key. That's where he's a lot like Mullen. All right, he has that capability where he's going to scheme it up every week. And that's one of the keys to his offensive style. That's where the pro style comes into it, the pro influence comes in. Remember, he worked under Todd Monken at Georgia. Todd Monken, now the OC at the Baltimore Ravens. So what happens is week to week, this pro style or pro influence is based on finding matchups, all right? Every week, he's going to be looking for the matchups, okay? And the offense is going to be designed every week to create the matchups that he wants. So you're still going to see a lot of the motions that we saw with Bill. A lot of people didn't like the motions, but you're going to see a lot of motions. You're going to see formation changes. All right, he uses a lot of different formations. Uses a lot of 10, okay, which is a big pro style set, and 11s, right, with that one tight end. So you're going to see those types of things, and he's using these different formations. He's using the motions to create space, either for the running game or the passing game. He's moving people around. But the quarterbacks are going to have to be decisive. They're going to have to make reads, okay? And then what they're going to do is they're going to make adjustments off of the coverage that they're seeing when they step up to the line of scrimmage. So a little more complex than what Billy had. Billy's offense did seem a little simplistic. That was one of the big complaints. It was easy to decipher. I think the biggest problem with Billy's offense was the blocking scheme. I think Billy's blocking scheme was so elementary that some of the complex defensive rush schemes you saw, some of the things they saw that were pro style, just ate it up. So now the air raid concepts that are kind of the basis for the passing game in this Buster Faulkner offense makes an attempt to make the blocking easier on passing downs. Now on run plays, it's sophisticated. It's a combination. If you saw my last video about Jordan Seaton potentially coming, I talked about how it has a mix of blocking schemes. It uses some traditional pro style gap schemes, and it uses zone. Zone blocking is also a part of this. Throw on top of all this, there's RPO involved in this, right? So there are some RPO that's also a part of this offense. So we're gonna have a lot more in his bag than we saw with Billy, right? Billy was very simple. This offense, I don't want to call it complex because he keeps, like I said, there's not a million plays in the playbook. They execute some core plays very well, but then it's incumbent upon the quarterback to make reads and the adjustments, and that's where the pro style comes from. All right, so a lot of the responsibility on this offense relies on the quarterback and the receivers being able to make the adjustments at the line of scrimmage when they're looking at the coverage. But coming in, Buster's going to have sat down and picked the defense apart. And that's where you get that whole thing about he's a nightmare, because he's going to scheme up matchups. He's going to be looking for ways to create the matchups, all right, that give you the advantage from the Gators' perspective. So what are my three things? Three things about the Buster Faulkner offense that we need to be looking at for the 2026 season. Thing number one, don't make the assumption that this is going to be a QB dual threat run heavy system. Okay, like I said, a lot of people are looking at Georgia Tech for the clues as to what the offense is going to look like for the Gators next season. Like I said, remember, Stetson Bennett was his guy at Georgia. Stetson Bennett wasn't a big dual threat quarterback. Okay, so this offense doesn't necessarily rely on a dual threat QB who's going to have to run the ball every other play. Yes, there are RPOs in the offense, like I said, and I'm sure he's going to run some of that to keep the defenses honest. But ultimately, he can use a pro-style quarterback. All right, Aaron Philo was a guy who slung the ball, right? So he wasn't a dual threat guy in high school. He was a passer. Same thing with Tramel Jones. That's why I say don't count Tramel Jones out. Right? This is a pro-style offense wrapped up with some concepts that makes it difficult to cover. So depending on how quickly Tramel can learn the offense, he's going to be a player. The quarterback room is going to be competitive. And that's something that the Gators have missed, and I think that's going to benefit the entire offensive side of the football, right? Because now you've got real competition going on. But don't assume that this is going to be a QB run-heavy offense that we saw at Georgia Tech. What Buster Faulkner does is he takes advantage of the offense or the personnel that he has on the field. So he's going to look at what he has on the field, what the strengths are of his QBs that are in the QB room, and that's how he's going to draw the offense up. So don't necessarily assume this is going to be all about running the quarterback like Haynes King did. That was an artifact or a result of, hey, this is what he does well. That's what we're going to do. Thing number two, expect Florida's big three to have big seasons, okay? I'm talking about Jadan Baugh, Dallas, and Vernell Brown III, all right? Dallas Wilson is a nightmare, right? And I just talked about this. His whole concept here for Faulkner is finding matchups and exploiting matchups. Those three guys are matchup nightmares for anybody and everybody. So he's got these three beasts out there that he can use to create matchup nightmares, and he's got, and man, that's awesome to have those three players. Now, also we're talking about we talked about the power run game. All right, Faulkner likes to run the football. He likes to power run the football. Okay, a lot of counters. So expect Jadan Baugh to run the ball a whole lot more. We've heard that already, but that's a part of it. Plus, because of some of the air raid concepts, Jadan Baugh, who's already shown he's a pretty good receiver, is going to have opportunities to catch the football as well. So I expect Florida's big three to show up big next season. Thing number three, expect more from the tight ends this season. Billy Napier never really used his tight ends. He used them mostly for blocking, and that's not to say that that's not going to happen with Faulkner. Again, going back to that running power, the power run game, tight ends in Buster Faulkner's offense are expected to block, but they're also expected to be good receivers. So that's part of the reason why I think Livingston left. I don't think that was necessarily something where the Gators were surprised. I think once they brought on those extra tight ends, we saw them add a couple of tight ends right at the end of the portal. Livingston wasn't a great route runner, didn't have a lot of speed, and tight ends in this offense are going to be expected to run routes. And so I'm not sure how good Livingston was at that. Yes, they're going to block, but they're going to also be an integral part of the pass game. You're going to see a lot of those tight ends line up in the H-back and sniffer positions, right, as a part of the power run. So gonna be interesting. So those are the three things I think we need to be looking out for next season with Buster Faulkner's offense. Remember, subscribe to the channel, like the video, and jump in the comments because I love talking to you guys. This is your boy, the Black Andy Cap. Until next time, peace.